Where we're going is this whole new era in our evolution that hasn't existed before on this planet. Throughout 2025, all of the outer planets are changing signs. There hasn't been this shift all in the same calendar year before. Pluto moves into Aquarius and expands our consciousness, opens us up to more galactic energies, to more cosmic understandings. There's the end of an era here. All of these energies are fire and air, which are fast moving. It's going to form us into the next version of what it means to be human. Is also going to bring up more tests for humanity about previous timelines like ancient civilizations. This brings up Atlantis. We're also going to be transitioning into some like wild new opportunities that we never thought were possible. When we sync up our free will with the divine will, that's when we're moving with the universe. And it's part of how we become more enlightened. We are in a cosmic initiation here that's going to take us to some wild places. What I'm so excited about is that we are entering into a whole new era in humanity's experiences. And this year is just the training wheels. This is just initiation into where we're going in 2026, 7, 8, and 9. So this is the year that we're leveling up while a lot falls away. And it's going to be wild, crazy, exciting, and also show us our new potentials. We're moving into new individual starting points. So each of us, like the billions on the planet, we're evolving energetically at a cellular level, of course, cosmically, physically, spiritually, emotionally. We have all these systems within us that are evolving 2025 that prepares us for where we're going the rest of this decade. So it is that big. And I feel people are really feeling it and sensing it, right? Wouldn't you say with people you interact with, we're all more curious. We're like, we feel it. We just really feel the shifts.
It does feel like there's a lot more of like this, there's a lot rising. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but every time I speak to people, it feels like they can feel so much of their, like, I think it's both. Like people can feel their shadows bubbling up, but they can also feel their light bubbling up like a lot more. But there's a lot, like they can feel, maybe that's the quality of it. They can feel a lot more.
Feeling a lot more, and it's our wholeness rising. It's all parts of ourselves that we're meant to be really seeing so that we can reprogram it, we can integrate it, we can toss it out, we can magnetize it in, amplify it in. Like that's part of how dynamic right now is, especially with the astrology, where throughout 2025, all of the outer planets are changing signs, which I'm sure people have heard about more of this so far this year, but that's really significant. It means that we're really changing in multiple areas of our consciousness, multiple parts of our beingness. So it's not just you, it's all of us, right? I just want people to know that. I want you to understand like you're part of this collective that is rising, and we are meant to be looking at ourselves through a more authentic lens. Like we're really supposed to understand what we're good at, what makes us different, you know, how we're here to offer that into the collective in a whole new way. So yes, we are rising, we are elevating, our energies are shifting, and we've never experienced this kind of accelerated energy before. Like in the collective field, the energies are going to accelerate in a really powerful way.
When you mentioned that all the signs in the outer planets are moving, can you tell us like potentially the last time you saw something like this, if ever? And then also like when do the outer planets start and end? And also what do each of the outer planets symbolize?
Yes, absolutely. So there hasn't been this shift all in the same calendar year before. So we have all these planets moving at different cycles. So Saturn is moving into Aries for the first time in nearly 30 years. This hasn't happened since 1994, 1995. This is a whole new cycle in our physical world. Saturn is about the 3D. It's what's tangible, where we have commitments, where we've got to go to work, get things done, earn that paycheck. Saturn is ushering us into some new realizations about starting your life chapter or starting something fresh that really aligns with you, that's really understanding who you are now at this point in your life. We're going to see a lot of people changing their lives, changing what has meaning to them, understanding their values. We're going to see that I'm complete with a cycle. I'm ready for a fresh start. So that is a significant cycle that starts in 2025 and also gets stronger in 2026. Then another planet that's changing signs is Uranus. Uranus spends about 8 years or so in each sign. Uranus is going to move into the speedy energy of Gemini, which is the mind, communications, electronics, technologies. Tell me, Amrit, tell me, what have you seen in our world that's like totally blowing up with
like
communications?
AI and just the way people are navigating all of that, and we like
everything.
And everything is so different already, and we're only like a year in, and it just feels like we're barely scratching the surface. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be accelerating in how our everyday life changes permanently based on electronics, based on more things being connected. There's also a speediness that's going to change not only how we communicate, it's going to filter into education systems, how we teach, how we learn, how we connect on a regular basis. You know, when we look back to 2020, and of course the horrible things that we had to endure, the adjustments we had to go through, that set us up for what needed to start to change in our lives. And so everyone jumps on Zoom, right? Everyone gets onto the electronics to communicate and connect. All of that is going to speed up when Uranus moves into Gemini, which starts here in 2025, and Uranus will stay in Gemini until 2033. So this is moving into a whole new phase of how we live our lives and how it affects not only, like I said, communications, education, but transportation. We're going to have all these new ways of getting around, of getting places, of things we can't quite imagine just yet that will be very cool and exciting, kind of like here we all are on our hoverboards and or here we all we're flying through the sky in these pods. I don't know. It's like it could be anything with these energies, but it's designed to increase how often we connect, what we connect to. Uranus in Gemini is also related to the rise of smart cities, which have been in development for a very long time in different places. It's going to be integrating more ways of using ourselves, our individual selves, with technology. I mean, think about now, like biometrics or how you log into devices. All of that is going to be the norm. I mean, I think about with passport control nowadays, you don't have to even show your passport. They'll just scan your face and let you in.
Which is really trippy when that happens as well. It's like very big brothery in some ways, but also very cutting edge in other ways as well. Yeah.
But in the passport, I want the stamp. Like I want the stamp that says I was there. So those things we're losing along the way. And I think it's important to validate that. Like we are going to be experiencing these changes in so many areas of our lives that we're going to also feel that there's the end of an era here. There's an end of certain parts of our lives that, you know, we didn't realize are fading out. You know, it's sort of like only in hindsight do you see what was analog or what was not, you know, really going to last long term. So there's going to be things that, you know, we no longer use, we no longer reference, we no longer have in our lives. And that's going to be weird too. The further we get into this decade is that we're going to look back and be like, oh, wow, do you remember when we used to do da-da-da-da? And be like, we don't do that anymore. You know, it's kind of like newspapers. Like who gets a newspaper delivered to their house anymore when all you do is you need to pick up a phone to understand what's going on?
So Saturn was all about our interactions and relationships with the 3D world. And Uranus is all about our interactions with, is it digital technology in particular, or or it just happens to be that what it's being influenced by is digital technology at this particular moment in time?
Uranus is fascinating because it's the opposite of what Saturn wants, where Saturn wants the structures, the form, what's reliable, what I can count on. Uranus is more rebellious, revolutionary. Let's not do it in the traditional way. Let's advance ourselves. So, this Uranus energy is about how we're going to advance our everyday experiences, our cities, our daily
Advancement.
world, and how we're going to take it into new ways of doing things. So, think of Uranus as the accelerator that takes us into some new things that can seem really exciting and wow, this is so cool. But at the same time, I always think of, well, but there's things that we're not going to be experiencing that we used to really love. It's like we have to, I think there's a balance that's needed here because these energies are so fast moving that we're not going to have time even to understand, what we don't need anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it sounds like there's like lots coming in, but there's also lots being shared. Very interesting time. So that's a couple of the outer planets. Are there more that are changing signs?
Yep. Yeah, there's a few more here. So we're also going to have Neptune moving into Aries in 2025. Neptune takes 165 years to go through all 12 zodiac signs. So Neptune moving into Aries alongside Saturn means that these new starts that we're going to have in the physical world, Neptune means we're going to have to integrate more of our intuition, more of our spiritual awareness, more of our understanding of what is higher. I feel that this Neptune influence, it's going to work in a few ways for people where there's going to be a new sense of what I'm capable of as a more enlightened spiritual being. That's going to help many people understand what really matters to them and what they want to build in their lives, since both Neptune and Saturn will be in Aries. So this Aries energy is starting a whole new chapter on the planet, Amrit, and that means that each of us is a part of that, but it's requiring our spiritual responsibility and also the embodiment of enlightenment and what that means to each of us, to walk the talk.
Wow, that sounds like there's even just there's a real spiritual connotation to that, to integrating our intuition. Seems like, and it does seem like more and more people are having that conversation.
It's gonna form us into the new human, the next version of what it means to be human, like what it means to really work with our intuition, because we have been surrounded by a lot of programming and a lot of energies towards our mind. Even from a young age, we go to school and we learn. We're always engaging our personal Mercury. We're always needing to, read the lessons, take the test, study for the exam. We're very heavy on the mind, and we're very heavy on following what the mind perceives and how we understand various concepts and information and all the stimuli around us. Now we're moving into an opening in our energy where we're able to understand that we're more than just our brains and our minds. We have this intuition, we have this gut instinct, we have expanding hearts. How do we bring all of that into the wholeness of living a life that is truly us? We have to open up all those fields within ourselves even more in order to embrace and attract in what is correct for us as more holistically aware beings. So I hope that makes sense, because part of what we're doing is this expansion away from just the mind, incorporating all of our senses, integrating our intuition and our hearts so that we can be living like these fuller versions of ourselves.
It does seem like that's such a beautiful evolution ahead of us, and inspiring to feel that it's literally happening now. It starts now. Today's the year of the training wheels. Outer planets, we've also got is Jupiter part of the outer planets? And Pluto definitely is, right?
Yeah. So Jupiter is an outer planet, but it moves faster. So Jupiter changes signs every year. So in 2025, it spends half the year in Gemini and then moves into cozy, comfortable Cancer, that wants more softness, more time with loved ones. There's a sense of, well, I want to be with what feels good and what I want to cherish. So there's a drop into the heart when Jupiter moves into Cancer, which happens June 7th. And spends a year there in Cancer, and then it'll move on to Leo and then Virgo and so on. So Jupiter changes signs every year. And Jupiter is also how we accumulate more wisdom that forms our world views and our world perspectives. Jupiter is very uplifting and very happy and can also go overboard. It eats too much at the buffet. It's when you don't know how to say when. You're always like, one more, just one more round, one more of anything. Jupiter is a party animal, if you will. But the Jupiter influence also is designed to give us life and to give us enjoyment of our time here on the planet.
Alrighty, and then Pluto. Is that the last one that we've got left? Have we missed any?
Yes, and then Pluto, which has been all the hype in astrology for a while now, since Pluto finally moved into Aquarius, where it's staying until 2044. And this Pluto in Aquarius energy is syncing up with Uranus and Neptune. So this is why the second half of this decade is so vital, because Pluto moves into Aquarius and expands our consciousness to what we've never explored before, takes us off planet, opens us up to more galactic energies, to more cosmic understandings. This is the energy of not only artificial intelligence, but technology, the Space Force, new engineering feats, where we're going, where we've never been before. And it's asking us to look at things in a whole new light, while the Pluto energy destroys certain systems that are outdated for humanity. So this will involve, we're going to have new evolutions in the internet, in social media, in ways that we connect to our devices. We're going to have new ways that we work with each other, that we interact, and Pluto is going to be destroying the systems that are outdated in order to rejuvenate them. And all of this interacts with that Uranus in Gemini and Neptune in Aries, which is why these three powerhouses working together is a really big deal for the second half of this decade, because where we're going is this whole new era in our evolution that hasn't existed before on this planet. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, because it's like, well, what could that possibly look like? Well, all of these energies are fire and air, which are fast moving. The acceleration happens quickly. The movement occurs swiftly. Things that have been going on behind the scenes come to the forefront and take off. So we're going to be moving into a whole new era of what it means to live on this planet, and how that is going to show up in all these different forms in our lives, including in ourselves. And we're already seeing the systems changing. We're already seeing how things are evolving. Where I live in Florida, they're doing all of these launches, spacecraft launches, SpaceX, Blue Origin. They're all launching even more into above the earth there, the Starlink systems, various experiments are happening. The whole realm of space tourism is being tested and looked into. I mean, this is the next frontier is space, is above our heads. And that's definitely where these energies are going to be taking us.
Hey there, Inspired Souls. Just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. Thank you so much for your incredible loving support. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the subscribe button is lighting up below in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon. It helps with everything we're doing here, championing love, positivity, and wisdom around the planet. Thank you so much in advance. Wow. It seems like there is such an incredible it literally feels like we're just turning into... It's interesting based on I'm trying to collate everything you've just sort of shared, and it sounds like we're becoming more heart-centered, more intuitive, opening up to more of our extrasensory perceptions, while simultaneously becoming a bit more of an intergalactic, more space-faring species. Is that kind of the high-level summary, or is there anything you would summarize from all of that together?
So I would then pull in that more of where we're going in the galactic cosmic energies is also going to bring up more tests for humanity about previous timelines and previous experiences, like ancient civilizations on our planet that didn't do it well. or that self-destructed. And so to me, this brings up Atlantis, and this brings up some qualities of where we got too much into the technology, but we left our hearts behind, or we didn't honor the intuitive energies that we possess. We didn't honor what it felt like, or even more of the organic parts of our planet. You know, when you talk about all these technologies and innovations and things that we're creating, well, but we live on a planet that has, you know, beautiful animals and flora and flowers and oceans and the natural elements that can be feeling the effects of all this. And I feel like actually our assignment, Amrit, is how we're going to balance it, because we need to bring those parts of our world into this equation. And, you know, if we're just going to go off planet, or if everything is going to accelerate to the point that perhaps potentially leads to self-destruction, I feel like we've, at some level of our being, we've already played out those storylines. We're here to create a new story that balances all the energies together. You can look at this too as integrating the divine feminine, the divine masculine energies together, the strengths of both, and how that's where we can have some really beautiful new creations without being out of balance.
Seems like there's a lot shifting and changing. And these are the outer planets. So when you look at the outer planets and you sort of switch from outer planets to inner planets, is that the asteroid belt that sort of is that the delineation between outer and inner in the cosmos?
Yes, between Mars and Jupiter, asteroid belt, and then when you go towards, you have Mars, and you get closer to Venus and the Earth and Mercury and the Sun. And so those planets, and then the moon, of course, too, we consider the 5 personal planets in astrology. And the 5 personal planets make up essentially your own personal recipe of yourself, of your needs, your desires, what you value, what you want, how you show up as your energy, and how you assert yourself. So the 5 personal planets for an individual is really important for understanding who you are, because even if, let's say, for example, somebody has their sun in Capricorn, they could still have, let's say, 4 planets in Sagittarius. That's a very different energy. So they're not going to feel like a Capricorn, because the other components of their personal recipe involve a lot of Sagittarius. So this is where astrology becomes so personal, is that you get to the heart of, okay, these are my 5 personal planets. This is where my sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are, that composes more of your true self and how you understand yourself and your needs.
And is there more stability being offered in these internal personal planets at the moment, or are they also in a state of change?
Oh, it's so wild. It's so different for everybody, because the people who have planets in fire and air signs are going to feel elevated by all this, because it's going to be more supportive of forward movement. So that would be the 3 fire signs are Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. And the 3 air signs are Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. So personal planets in those signs are going to be receiving support from these outer planets that we've described. And then if you have your personal planets in the earth or water signs, earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. This could feel like a lot at times, that it's moving too fast, that there's a lot to understand, but that's also where the energy is going to be more valued. I feel like there's going to be more value on earth and water signs, because we're going to need them even more. Just like I mentioned about needing the earth and needing to have, you know, the beauty of the forests and the flowing oceans, rivers all around us. We need those earth and water elements even more when the energies start to pick up. So again, it's basically this ecosystem of looking at different astrology signs, different expressions, and we need the whole ecosystem to have a healthy ecosystem. But those who have placements in earth and water could feel that this is moving much faster than you prefer. And it will be something to just be aware of, and to, you know, make sure to take care of yourself as these energies pick up.
This is really profound because the conversation's moving into a space where not only is it about what's happening for us cosmically, astrologically, it's also the elemental signs that are connected to the star signs in some ways. And what I'm picking up is when you're going through certain transitions that are influenced by certain elements, like you said, this is going fire and wind ways. If you are a fire and wind, you just you catch more fire, catch more wind. It's like brrr, off you go. But then also, like, if you're water and earth, it's like it's a time that's potentially like, yeah, your energy is less naturally aligned to the shift that's happening. So you're more valuable. There's more opportunity for you at this time than ever before, sort of thing. Never really looked at it that way. Yeah.
Everything has value in this complex makeup of energies. Like everything offers something. Some things feel easier and that they sync up better. Do keep in mind that we've just been in a significant time period of very strong earth and water that has been good for those who have planets and placements in earth and water signs. There's been a lot here that's probably been grounding you, exciting, supporting you, breaking free from anything that held you back, opening you up to more of the world and to trusting yourself, trusting what you can offer and do. And this is part of the cycle of astrology, is that it's an ongoing cycle of energies that continues to advance us and take us forward. So even though the energies are going to pick up, there's also then going to come a phase when they start to slow down. So we're learning to work with what is, to work with the energies as they flow with us, to make the most of now, knowing that it will shift and change. And then when it shifts and changes, we make the most of that when it arises. So astrology, it connects us. It's almost like it helps our minds and our energies understand the weather, the cosmic weather, the energetic weather, and how to make the most of it. If it's storming outside, you're going to dress differently than if it's a bright, hot day and you're going to the beach. So it just helps us be prepared for this level of energy that's coming in and helps each of us just prepare the best we can.
Hi there, guys. I wanted to take a quick moment just to introduce you to my one-to-one coaching. It's something that I deeply love doing. As you can tell, conscious conversation is such a massive part of my life. And having one-to-one, deep, meaningful conversations with people where I get to show up as your brother or as the coach or as your mentor has been such a gift for me personally, and a gift for lots of the people that I have supported on the journey of living a more spiritually empowered, spiritually powered, spiritually aligned life. You don't have to take my word for it. Here's some examples of people all around the world that have experienced profound transformations through this coaching experience.
Amrit is a fantastic coach.
In a few sessions, he got to a depth that I'd only experienced before working with certain medicines.
He's gone through a lot of the struggles that you're probably facing, and Amrit's been a really strong, supportive figure in my journey.
In control of myself.
I'm kinder to myself.
I actually have that vision and a purpose.
I do feel like I'm a better version of myself already.
Amazing energy.
He was easy to talk to, which made me easy to trust him.
Working with Amrit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and really I was bouncing out of bed.
Whenever I get off the calls with Amrit, best money we've ever spent.
I would not recommend him because I don't want everyone to know about him, and then I won't be able to book him. If he gets too busy, I won't get my turn.
I would say absolutely.
There's no way you can work with Amrit for a period of time without being transformed.
So if you're considering him as a coach, do not hesitate, because you won't be disappointed.
Alrighty, so hopefully that's inspiring your evolution onwards and upwards. And if you are so inspired to evolve, you can book in a one-to-one call with me directly at www.amrit.coach/life. And guys, if I can say so myself, I do think this is something quite special. Most people that I see building things online don't really work with people this deeply, this intimately, one-on-one as things start to grow, just because it is so time intensive. And yet I'm so deeply passionate about the transformation that comes from one-to-one coaching that just isn't available anywhere else. It would be my absolute honor and a pleasure to support your spiritual awakening, your spiritual path, your spiritual unfoldment. It is my life's work. I look forward to seeing you in the call. Back to today's podcast. That was going to be one of my questions today, Molly, is understanding the energetics is super helpful because it gives your mind, like, you get context in terms of where you're placed in and around everything that's happening. And then also, but are there certain things that you would recommend, particularly at this time at this transition for maybe it's different for each elemental sign, but are there certain things we can do to prepare for where we're going from here?
I think there are, and I'm glad you asked that, because I think one of the most important things is like when we hear about these big energies, right? I'm talking about later in the decade. It can accelerate our minds. We can start to want to figure it out. Our nervous systems can become activated. Maybe you're feeling that you get more fearful, or you're like, oh no, it sounds overwhelming. It sounds really big. Other people get very excited and very motivated. And why aren't we there yet? And when do we get there? And ultimately, what it comes down to is make sure that you're honoring what your systems need, what your nervous system needs, what your body needs, that we will always need certain qualities in our experiences that support us. We always need good hydration, good food, good sleep. We need to exercise. Like we need to take care of our physical selves. We need to have ways to calm the heart, or to calm when our emotional bodies feel too big, or when there's a lot going on and we feel overwhelmed. So one of the best things you can do is focus on the very simple daily devotions or daily practices that ground you, knowing that you will need that every day, no matter what, that it will support you. It'll help you understand what you're experiencing and what you're feeling. And that's what you have control over. That's what you can manage. Like, we can't manage some of these big developments or what's going on in the Space Force, and we can't take care of, what's going on over here, over there. But how can you care for yourself? Because that's where you're going to continue to feel empowered, and where you're going to have a sense of how you can manage every day as it comes. So it really, even though we're talking about these high level concepts, it comes down to the daily management of them and what practices will ground you and support you.
So I think the call to action there is to try and find the practices and maintain the practices and anchor into the practices, center us in many ways, is what I'm hearing. And is that, again, maybe I'm drawing too many parallels, but correct me if I'm wrong, because there's so much that is shifting externally, that's why centering is such an important element at this particular time.
Yes, because similar to we were talking about the 4 elements of astrology creating an ecosystem, we individually are ecosystems that have to manage, where our energy is going. And so if there's too much anxiety, if there's too much mental energy, we've got to calm that by slowing it down, dropping into the body, being in a place of trusting ourselves, trusting our body, just being able to regulate that, moderate it, so that we're aware of, this is how I'm feeling, this is the energy I'm picking up on, and where do I need to come back to center and come back to, a place of feeling grounded and clear. I think that's going to be more essential than ever, Amrit. I feel like that's going to be something that we're going to seek. I also feel like as these energies pick up, there's going to be certain values that emerge that we realize we really like or we really need, such as silence. Like, how many times can we find silence, right? Or how many times can you feel like you're able to just step away and listen to what you're sensing or what you're picking up on? I feel like we're going to need to find ways to balance ourselves from all of these energies and the busyness of the world.
Are there certain qualities like that are Aquarian by nature? Because there is also this shift that's happening, right? Pisces to Aquarius, which is that the precession of the equinoxes? And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the shifting of the age from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, which is based on where the Earth is and where the Earth is moving, and how the Earth changes in that position over a flow of just over 2,100 years or so. And it's not an exact date, it's just a flow of energy. And so as we're moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, we're moving from the stories and experiences we've had where we were of service to our own detriment, where we were overgiving, where we were giving our power away. Some of the lower expressions of Pisces can be great teachers, where we see, I had blind faith about something. I wasn't trusting my own intuition. I wasn't listening to what I really need. So we're meant to call that energy back to us. We're meant to call in the parts of ourselves that came here fully awake, fully alive with the energies, and to be able to tune into our own abilities more and take that into the age of Aquarius, which is also connected to our knowingness. And that knowingness isn't of the human mind, it's of the universal mind. Aquarius being about the water bearer and cosmic consciousness, spilling higher consciousness onto humanity for the betterment of the collective. So we're moving into some new ways of understanding ourselves and our own authenticity. I feel like this is a really big theme because we're meant to be, it's like breaking away from the unconscious expectations we had of ourselves, of what it meant to live a good life or a successful life, or what it meant to have certain experiences on the planet. I feel like we're moving into, these are the gifts I came in with. This is what is truly me. This is what really interests me and excites me. This is even more. It's almost like the dream that's bigger than I could have imagined. We're moving into this understanding of how to live from that space, how to really honor our authenticity in a whole new way, and not just as some trite phrase or an easy to say word. It's more like, no, I am here to be different, and that's what's needed. That's what the mosaic of humanity needs. So we're learning about our authentic frequencies, and astrology does that. Like, astrology is such an amazing tool for people to understand, wow, this makes sense, or I felt like this my whole life, or this, yes, this rings true. Astrology is so validating. It gets away from just the sun sign stuff that is very simplistic, and your astrology chart and your astrological energy becomes your own beautiful divine cosmic blueprint of you. And that's what's needed here in the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is astrology. Aquarius is understanding how you're different, and the ability to differentiate yourself is your goal, is what you're here to embody and how you're here to live this life. So that's why it's an exciting time for astrology, because it gives you that guidance of who you really are and more of what you came here to be.
Hey there, inspired souls, lumen beings, join in on the conversation. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below what it is that you're taking away from today's podcast. How does astrology benefit your life? What are your insights? Is this the first time you're coming across this? How are you appreciating Molly's approach over that of other astrology? And if you have any questions of Molly that you'd like to ask in the future, please leave them in the comments below. I do read your comments and may ask them in the future, and it'd be my honor to do so. So join in on the conversation in the comments below. With that, back to Molly in today's episode. You've got the book, which is the Art of Trapeze, which is, I feel like, an ode to so much like awakening and surrender. And I do wonder, especially at times like this, where we're being invited to, like, authenticity seems to be this call to arms, like you described. And for those, I imagine for certain people's psychology, it's going to be challenging to they're probably going to cling on to the old structures and the societal programmings and the familial programmings and all those things which sort of inhibit us from stepping into our authenticity. I'd just like to get a moment to sort of share from yourself the thoughts on, like, just the power of surrender, yes, but then also just the discomfort that comes from clinging at times where you're required to surrender.
Oh, absolutely. Having fear about the unknown is a human theme, a universal human experience. Fearing the surrender is normal, not knowing what to rely on or what to plan for next. The concept of surrender can seem beautiful on one hand, and then it brings up everything that we are fearing. And what we're moving into, it's going to strip people away from a lot of what they've known. And there's going to need to be support systems for that. I'm thinking about how, when we let go of one version of our life, the next version doesn't show up right away. There can be that uncomfortable pause and that sense of, it's all a mistake. What am I doing? I don't think I want this. It's kind of like, well, I know I quit the job I hated. It wasn't my true purpose. It paid the bills. It served a purpose, but now I'm ready for the next thing. And then there's that pause of like, but the next thing isn't here yet. And I find that those are powerful 0-point resets that also show us our power in a whole new way of what needs to be looked at, what programming, especially from your parents, from society, and from yourself, you're still holding. And this is a point where people can make really big new discoveries about what they want, especially when they venture into new territory like astrology, like human design, like leadership training, like any kind of new section in the library that's self-help or allows you to understand yourself more. You start to open up to those parts of yourself you haven't met before. So that's going to be part of the surrender. People are going to be going through grieving process, of what was before the new comes. We're also going to be transitioning into some like wild new opportunities that we never thought were possible. A lot of people are going to be like, I can't believe I'm doing this next job, or I can't believe this is, what is showing up for me. So I feel like even though it's normal to be in that surrender and the uncertainty, at a human level, we're not made for that, but at a spiritual level, we are. At a spiritual level, we are made for all these energies. And I feel like people are going to, again, have that initiation into more parts of themselves this year.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And in The Truth Always Rises, you focus on navigating like some of the darker passages in life. How do you find astrology helps as a guiding light during those times?
I have followed astrology for decades now. I started when I was probably 11 or 12, and then I stayed with it for many, many years because astrology always validated where I was. And there were times when I was in college and I was going through really hard things, and I would go to the computer lab. That's back in the 90s when you had to go to the computer lab just to have access to a computer. And I would go to these astrology sites just to read what was going on. And I would just feel a relief, like, okay, at least that validates what I'm going through and the hardships and the uncertainties and the unknowns. Astrology has many cycles, and in your chart, it's those cycles that are coming through that you're experiencing and that can explain why you have certain challenges or why there's certain hardships or slowdowns. Then it also shows when the energy changes. So astrology has been like one of my guardian angels. It's been something that's given me perspective on the good, the bad, the ugly. It's helped me, especially mentally, emotionally, and consciously, work with the universe. It's my connection to the universe. I feel like that's why people are drawn to it, because the more personal you get into astrology, you're like, this is the universe speaking to me, helping me understand my unique design, my unique path. And again, it feels so validating, like you can just feel seen. So I've always used astrology in all areas of my life. I've had different experiences where things were really unsettled, like, we want justice or we want things to be fair. And that doesn't always happen right away. We don't always get that. So I found that astrology has matured me. It's provided me with an understanding of timing and cycles and themes. It's also giving me an understanding of my choices. What choice do I want to make right now? What choice would support me? Even if it's a small choice, even if it's just really a simple choice. So I just feel like my life is better because of astrology, and it's definitely been something that's guided me through those dark passages of life that we all have.
It's interesting. I wanted to ask you a question about how you use astrology in your own day-to-day life, but if I could almost maybe draw it back to, because you said, you're going to university, college, and you're studying away at things. I'm not sure if you're studying astrology at the time, but then potentially, you've picked astrology as your way forward for, your career even. Was there a particular moment in time where you were using astrologically your chart to sort of map when was the best time to sort of make this shift into astrology, and what were you doing previously? Like, how do you use astrology in your day-to-day life?
So I always used astrology behind the scenes, because when I was in college, I was studying political science. And then I was using astrology behind the scenes. And then later on in my life, when I was getting my master's degree, I was also referencing astrology. So it's always been like it's behind the scenes tool. And I never, ever, 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 ever thought I would be an astrologer. I never thought I could make a living or do it in a way that would work for me. It was not what I chose. And what I say, and what other astrologers will say, well, I didn't choose astrology. Astrology chose me. And I had all these other things in my life shut down, where this was the only path forward. And I had these different choices to make about what I really wanted and what I was passionate about. My background, I did a lot with online marketing and sales. I worked for as a consultant for Fortune 500 companies, helping with their digital platforms, their email marketing strategy. I did a lot in high-end sales. I've had a lot of different experiences in sales and marketing as the umbrella. Nothing prepared me for this turn of events into astrology. I would say that, when I really got into this profession more out there, it's because people were ready, people were interested. And I kept it, again, behind the scenes for a long time. I was doing sessions for years, but just word of mouth, just quietly, like hidden on my website kind of a thing, because it wasn't something that had a lot of interest. So it's been fascinating the past 10 years to watch astrology become more mainstream and more everyday, and hopefully more respected, because the thing about astrology is that if it didn't work, if it wasn't relevant, it wouldn't still be here. We would have disproven it long, long ago. It wouldn't still be something that we reference now for centuries and centuries. So astrology continues to demonstrate that it is accurate and beneficial. And here we are, our human consciousness is like getting on board to understand, how we can use it personally and how it can benefit us. So I've loved astrology my whole life. I'm grateful for it. And I find too that, I'm just glad that I can help other people on their path and help them connect to their own brilliance and how the universe is speaking to them.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I do feel like not that it's ever been that incredible. Actually been incredible. Sorry, that's an interesting word. I was going to say uncredible, but then I said incredible, which means something completely different. So it's actually is pretty incredible when you start thinking about the stars and the world out there, and then our internal world and universe within. But the point was, it does seem like, and maybe this is just because of the ecosystem that I'm in the inspired evolution, so I'm conscious of like conflating that too much. But it does seem like it is getting more and more mainstream sort of uptake. Like people are absorbing astrology more and more. Do you see that in the nature of your work and its receptivity as well?
Absolutely, because astrology is being rebranded. So you go back centuries and centuries, and all over the globe, ancient populations, all looked up to the skies. And they looked up to look at the stars, to predict war, to determine future events, determine the seasons. It started too as understanding the agricultural cycle and when to harvest and when to work with the crops. And then it also related to, eclipses, and a very bright red eclipse would signify war. So there were all these different ways that populations all over the planet would connect to the stars. I also see that as a galactic understanding too, that there have always been galactic visitors to our planet. We've always had incoming visitors from other places that have shown up, which has also been why we've looked up and why we've looked to the stars for messages. But after, through the centuries of astrology being studied, it used to be only those who were elite enough could hire an astrologer. Only a king, a queen, a ruler, a monarch, someone of privilege would have the ability to consult an astrologer or a seer, someone who had those additional gifts to understand how to rule or how to work with the energies. And then we go into, the Dark Ages and the time when all of that was shut down, and it was signified as evil and bad and horrific and sinful and all these really negative messages because of the wisdom and the accuracy of astrology. Because astrology, it's almost like because it was only for those in power, it could not be a good thing for everyone to have access to. So you shut it down, you take it away, you make it evil so that people believe that it's not real or that it wouldn't help them. Well, this is part of the rising in consciousness that's coming back around, is that people are saying, wait a minute, this stuff, it works. And it's actually been a tool that's been used behind the scenes by many important and influential people, by many elites. It's been a reference tool. But in our world, there's different reasons why that isn't shared or that isn't put out there. So astrology has always been valid, but there has been this well, it's like a power structure or system that's denied access to everyone being able to work with it. So now is a time when more people are understanding this is good stuff. I want some more of this, because not only is it validating and it's personal, but it works. It works. So yeah, we're living in a time when astrology is being rebranded, and it's something now that more people have access to than ever before.
How do leaders and entrepreneurs use astrology to, I guess, craft / support their purpose-driven businesses? And
you can create a chart for a business. You can create a chart for a person. For when a business is created, it would have enough information to create a chart. Some of my clients have been very, 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 very wealthy. There's that saying that millionaires don't have astrologers, but billionaires do. Because you want to time things. You want it to be the right cycle. And there isn't always the right cycle. So there's certain things that match up that will demonstrate, yes, this is a prosperous time. Yes, this is a good time for a new beginning. Yes, this would be a good time for a launch, a new project. There's also things you have to be able to tell. They're like, no, it's not a good time. 3 years is a good time. And that's not what people want to hear. They're like, no, I have this plan for June. It's like, well, June isn't a good time for this. So it's interesting because you're working with a bigger energy cycle that can work against human will or what we plan. But that's one of the gifts of astrology. So as Pluto is now in Aquarius, I'm looking at various Aquarius endeavors and thinking about, I don't know if this is a good business model, or I don't know if this is going to sync up with what the Pluto and Aquarius energies want us to generate and take forward. So we're going to see some big transformations in Pluto in Aquarius industries, including the airlines and air travel, airports. Airports are very Aquarius. So it'll be fascinating to observe how airports change over the next 19 years. Anything that involves where people go collectively. So sporting venues, movie theaters, amusement parks, concert venues, like where people collect and have a joint experience, all of that is going to change. Granted, it's all going to change with the technology that's going to be integrated, where perhaps, you're able to get things faster. You're, using different machines and pushing different buttons to order your food faster or to have a different experience. It's all going to be shifting and changing here, with these Pluto and Aquarius energies.
you mentioned human will. I think whenever discussing astrology, it always opens up. It's human will, divine will, cosmic will. It's like, how do you see the interplay of free will in and around all?
Well, we always have free will, But when we sync up our free will with the divine will, with the timing of the energies, when we sync it up in a way that we're working with us, that's when we're moving with the universe, and that's when we feel like the wind is at our back, or at least we're understanding why certain things are playing out or not playing out. So the free will, human will, is the ultimate playground for humans, and it's part of how we become more enlightened, because we can choose anything at any time, right? Like they say, you're only one decision away from completely changing your life. So we always have these openings into new choices and possibilities. But I feel that what we're understanding is not only the power of our free will, but that when we're working with this divine will and this higher potential, we really step into more of what we want and how to sync it up, especially like through universal spiritual laws, through various cycles that are happening in the cosmos. So that's where I see the energy, because I feel like that's where we become more awakened out of our ego. We become more awakened out of simply, well, what do I want right now, versus what would serve me for the long term, or what do I really want to choose? Because we can also be unconsciously creating more karma with our free will. We can be circling in repetitive patterns and habits. We can be moving through very unconscious cycles. And so that's part of the human experience, but then that's where we have, human awakenings. And I always see it as like that explosive, like you have an awakening about yourself, or you have an awakening about how you're operating or how you're doing things. And we have so many awakenings in our lifetime that rise us out of our human will, that rises out of our limited human perspective.
There's a lot of different resources you've created over the years for people to dive in deeper, to embrace astrology into their lives. What are some of the more, what are the ones that you think would be most relevant for those that are this podcast potentially as ways forward?
Right. So I do an astrology podcast twice a week that's free, and that's just designed to help people understand what's going on right now, what's going on in the world. And ultimately, I hope it's validating and that it resonates. So that's every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, YouTube, Google, Apple, all the podcast places. And then I have 2 astrology books that are designed to help people understand their energy more. So one is Awakening Astrology, which focuses on those 5 personal planets that I mentioned previously, and helps you understand your own imprint more specifically. And then Soul Growth Astrology goes through the 12 astrology signs and shows people more about how to work with the sign to evolve it. So if you are perhaps like a Gemini who's really scattered, or who doesn't know how to slow down, or you don't know what choice to make, there's some exercises and tips in there for working with that Gemini energy. So it's designed to be practical applications that help you work with all 12 astrology signs. So that's Soul Growth Astrology. And so in addition to those 2 astrology books, I have a lot of online programs that help people dive into their chart more, such as a Astrology 101 course, which is just the basics and gets you going. You understand the language and what the heck you're looking at. What are all these weird glyphs and those weird signs? What does all this mean? It breaks it down into a very simple, easy to follow format. And then I also do programs for every year. So as we've been talking about, I do a 2025 Soul Growth Astrology program that takes you through the main astrology of this year and shows you where it's happening in your chart. So this is a little bit more advanced, but it gives people an understanding of this is what lies ahead for you this year. We talked about these planets changing signs, then you're going to see where that shows up in your own chart. So those are just some ways for people to go into their astrology even more, because this is a tool for you. This is a great way for you to know yourself, know your journey, know your path, and to feel empowered by it. So yeah, those are just some ways that people can get there by themselves.
I'll put links to all of that in the descriptions below for people to go check out if they want to do the journey forwards. If 2025 was like a movie, what would the title of 2025 be?
Oh, I would call it the initiation. I would say it's the cosmic initiation of what we're moving into, of how our planet is moving into a whole new frequency within our solar system and within the cosmos. And so we are becoming more cosmic citizens. We are becoming more aware of galactic energies. We are evolving. So yes, I would say we are in a cosmic initiation here that's going to take us to some wild places.
When you reference to galactic energies as well, do you think we're going to potentially make contact? Or what are your thoughts on that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I believe that there's already beings on the planet that are galactic beings, and that we're going to have more obvious contact, more disclosures, more revelations. I think that we're going to start to see more things that help us question what we assumed or what we thought was real. I think we're going to start to experience these energies, and it's a frequency match. So I feel like we're shifting our frequency, our vibration, to be able to connect to them and they to us. There have been, of course, experiments and things going on for decades that have been classified and hidden. I think we're going to have even more revelations around what's been going on. So I think that's part of how it's going to get really wild, and that it's going to be hard to compute or hard for people to maybe process it. But that's definitely where we're going, is there's going to be more galactic friends who present themselves.
Yeah, it's so trippy, Molly. I had this lady, Dr. Gladys. She's passed on actually last year, unfortunately. But she was 103 when she came to give a podcast episode on the Inspired Evolution. And she was part of the Second World War. Like sewing, knitting stuff and for uniforms. And she was actually the person that coined the term holistic. Dr. Gladys, like really awesome lady, and just, you know, it's so cool to have her on because she's talking about health and wellness, and then she coined the word holistic, and then she lives to 103. It's like, wow, you know, it's just such a beautiful,
amazing,
awesome lady, and so generous. Like, you know, an interview at 103, like, what are you actually talking about? And the reason I bring her into the conversation is she was like, at a certain point in the podcast, she just like got me to stop. She was just like, Amrit, do you know how remarkable it is what we're doing right now? And I was like, we're having a conversation. And she's like, yeah, but when I had when she had her first son, she could only send like 8 characters via like Morse. And that was amazing that she could notify her husband, that she could let him know, you know, like even otherwise he'd just have to wait till he got home to find out whether he's got a boy or a girl, you know, like that was the level of communications. And you just look at like, that's one person's lifetime. Yeah. And where we are right now, where like people are having conversations with an artificial intelligent, like chat GPT prompting thing. And you're just like, whoa,
yes,
things are really like shifting. Like,
and the humanoids and the robotics,
it's
like all the things that are being developed and coming to the forefront. It's, where's it going to go in our lifetime?
It's so trippy.
You know, in 50 years, you know, where's it going to be? We can't even conceive it.
Yeah. You mentioned encounter. Have you tuned into any of the transhumanism stuff? Like, do you think humans, machines interface? What are your thoughts on some of that stuff?
So I believe that's part of the experiments that are going to be revealed, because that's been going on for a long time, including the cloning and different ways of experimenting with human DNA and human organs. I believe that's also connected to space tourism, where they test, you know, the human body's capability in literally other realms and other places. So I think the transhumanism is going to be a big thing that comes up, that it's something that, you know, it's already been experimented with, and that it also brings up a lot of moral, ethical issues. I think it's a danger zone and possibly a slippery slope of where it goes next. Simply because we also want to maintain the integrity of the human, of how we co-create, you know, of how we create babies, of how we have our human functions and our human weaknesses and our human components and all of it. And so I feel that it is going to be a big issue around ethics, morality, integrity, what's this, where does this go? How far does this go? What is the point of it? What does it serve? I think it's going to bring up some big issues and some big areas that, you know, are going to be both exciting and also, you know, danger zones.
It's interesting as well, because we can sort of see up until this point, like there was a patriarch that was running most of society, and there's been potentially societies in the past for humanity that have been more matriarchal driven. And I think there's this culture at the moment of like the patriarchy is kind of, I don't know, maybe unconscious, maybe it's just conscious that patriarchy is kind of dissolving and giving way to a matriarchy. But the age of Aquarius, is it actually feminine, or is it, I've heard in some places it's androgynous. And what do you think about masculine, feminine energy, kind of where we're going to?
We need both. And I know that there's like, oh, patriarchy's bad. No, it's not. It's like nothing is all bad. We need both. We need patriarchal and matriarchal, paternal and maternal. That's human. That's part of our human essence. That's part of how we are meant to work together and coexist and co-create. And that's taking the best of both. So patriarchy, I feel like when it's gone to its extreme, and it hasn't valued the feminine is the problem. So I feel like we're shifting the scales to level it out, because we need patriarchy and we need matriarchy. It also is a different value system. So it isn't simply about, like, for example, replacing men with women. No, there's different values here. There's different values in the feminine, which is about the connection and feelings and being open and flowing, that needs to be valued in certain ways, in certain environments in our lives. So the patriarchy serves a purpose, and I feel like it's about the quality of the ingredients within. So it's about, well, who's within the patriarchal structures? What are their intentions? What are their actions? What are they really doing? Because you can have a very good-natured, honoring energy that supports all beings within a patriarchal structure. So I don't think it's as simple as, like, you take it down or remove it. It provides structure and it provides some beautiful things that we need. So I see it more as, well, how do we balance the scales and bring in more of the feminine qualities or the matriarchal qualities that we've missed that are needed to make it stronger?
Integrating it in.
So that's my view on it.
Integrating
And
it
then
in.
that's part of the androgyny that you mentioned, where I feel like it's not androgyny like neutral. I feel like it's the best of both coming to the table and the best of both showing up.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that take on it. Coming in from the collective back into the individual, this is probably a bit of a personal point for me, is like I'm so fascinated by astrology and like really excited to dive in deeper. Being a life coach, one of the things that I find, only sort of little niggles I have in my system around astrology, I like when people use astrology as a crutch to explain bad behavior or forgetfulness. It's like, hey, Mercury's in retrograde, so all this stuff sort of happened, and it's like there's a disempowerment in there. Like, I know there's like an informedness in there, but it can also be interpreted as a disempowerment. How do you help reconcile that piece? Can you help me there?
Well, with Mercury retrograde, it's meant to be something that we slow down and we understand there's going to be perhaps problems, snafus, and do-overs. So be more patient, be more kind, be more allowing, don't force it or don't have unrealistic expectations. It's easier to get frustrated, but regardless of whatever the planets are doing, an individual is still responsible for their energy. Like, we're never off the hook. So it's one thing to say it in jest, oh, Mercury is retrograde, but it's also another, you got to take responsibility for how you handle it, what you say, what you do with it, the actions you take. And that's never about the planets. That's always about the person. So I feel that some people go to that as a crutch. And, on the one hand, maybe it's funny as a meme or understandable with certain, I'll say that to my friend about something, but then I still have to take care of something. I still have to, get it done or whatever in the real world. So I don't think you can use it as a crutch or something. It can be a point of understanding, but then you, the humans, still have to, be a good person and be in your self-respect and your integrity and get something done or show up or not dismiss your responsibilities.
Molly McCord. Thank you so much for showing up today and just sharing yourself so abundantly here with us. It is such a gift, and for those tuning in, you can tell why it's just your take on astrology is so affirming and so validating and just so supportive. Just the context it provides to chart the way forward, I find so helpful in terms of just the resilience it provides as well. I'm not sure if everybody gets that, but I find it like a little secret hack for resilience. When you kind of just know that there are lights at the end of the tunnel, understanding cycles and systems, it's just like, okay, cool. Maybe just because I'm an earth sign and I'm a Virgo, I'm just like, okay, from a grounded place, in April, things will change. All right, cool. I just got to get through this next little bit then. It's just hella helpful in that way. So all of that to say, thank you for your take and your approach and sharing yourself so abundantly here. And like you said, like, this became your life's work. And it's really trippy, like astrology shows you. Yeah, exactly. So thank you for you doing you the way that you're doing it. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Amrit. Thank you for this conversation and just everything you brought to the equation. I just loved it. This was so easy, and I'm grateful to connect with you and your audience and everything you're doing in the world to support so many people. I'm just I'm just honored to be able to contribute this little piece. So thank you so much, because what you're doing matters and it's helping so many people. So I hope that really feels good to your Virgo heart, that you're being of service in a really big way, and it's really making a dent in the universe. So thank you.
Oh, that is so much to receive in true Virgo fashion. Receiving is a big thing. I'm still working on that. So it's a lot to receive. Thank you so much for the kind words and reflection. And yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You inspired soul. You made it through to the end of another incredible episode. Thank you so much for your inspirations to evolve. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. To all of you that have subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for your subscription. It is incredible to feel that there is over 100,000 people subscribed to this podcast. What is actually going on? Touch wood. But thank you so much for your incredible love and support. Everything you see around here, the guests, the conversations, truly is powered by your subscription to the channel. So thank you so much for your love and support. For all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. All it is taking a moment to hit the subscribe button below, hit that button, hit the bell notification icon. It helps everything we're doing here, championing love, positivity, and wisdom around the planet. You can join the movement through simply subscribing. And thank you so much in advance for doing so. Now, if you guys love this conversation with Molly, you're going to love these conversations we've had with Deborah Silverman. She has the School of Astrology. Also, Rick Levine. My goodness, we launched this episode on the 1st of Jan, and Touchwood has fast become one of the best episodes the Inspired Evolution has launched in terms of viewership. Super well received. So that's also an energetic update on 2025. And also another episode on screen for now that YouTube has determined to be the best episode that you, based on your viewing preferences and behavior, is your favorite to dive in deeper on. So, on screen now is an opportunity to keep your inspirations flowing and evolving onwards, upwards, and inwards. So go on, take your pick, make your click, and I'll see you in the next one.